Back 4 Blood announced 6 new cards today coming with the Tunnels of Terror DLC. And let me tell you, the information we're gleaning out of this is going to completely change how you look at this game. One card in particular because it gives us a huge clue as to what's coming. But let's go through all 6 of them so you understand what's happening here. Now, this is the first 6 cards that they've announced for the Tunnels of Terror DLC. I expect there to be at least 1 more of these, okay? So, let's just take a look at what we got now. We have Bodyguard, Weaponsmith, Pumped Up. I'm pumped up right now. Fit as a Fiddle, Magician's Apprentice, and Bravado. So what I'm going to do for you is explain some of the things that are going on in here based off of what I already know, based off of what Turtle Rock is saying, and based off of what everybody's thinking of, okay? So, right off the gate, we have Bodyguard. When a teammate within 5 meters is attacked, you instead receive 50% of that damage. Can trigger once every 3 seconds. So what this means to me is every 3 seconds, you can sit there and absorb a teammate's damage at a 50% damage reduction rate. That's a huge amount of damage reduction. Imagine the scenario where you have 2 people running Bodyguard, 2 melee folks. How about that? And let's say they already have their own damage reduction and then they get hit. Now, when does the damage reduction kick in? Is it that hit that they would have taken? So let's say it would have been a 10, but then their damage reduction brought it down to a 5. And then when it comes down to the Bodyguard, it's only a 2.5. So imagine 2 of these people running right next to each other with additional damage reduction. I don't know how low the amount of damage you're going to take is, but when we also factor in that Charisse is going to be a part of the game, Bodyguard's looking really, really interesting. And what I'm not sure about is anytime Hang takes damage from a mutation, he has a potential to drop a item. So I'm not sure if that's going to proc or if this means that you wouldn't necessarily want to have this around Hang because Hang might not take damage then. I don't know. Hang's going to be really interesting regarding Bodyguard. You guys let me know what you think. Now we have a Weaponsmith. And Weaponsmith is by far the biggest deal out of all of these. Not necessarily because of the card itself, but what the card says on it. In fact, it's such a big deal that I'm not going to talk about it right now. We're going to move on to Pumped Up and we're going to come back to it. So on to Pumped Up. What Pumped Up is going to do is your temporary health is going to decay 20% slower. There's going to be 1 more pain med on the map and plus 5% additional health. Usually it's only a flat number. This is a percentage, which is kind of interesting. Now, temporary health decaying 20% slower. If you don't know what that means, temporary health decays over time. If you take pills, you'll see over time it will just start to go down all by itself, even if you're not taking damage. So this is going to make that happen slower. What I'm curious about, and I'm not sure if this is already in the game, maybe you guys can let me know. I'm not certain if temporary health decays at different rates between different difficulties. Also, I don't know, maybe that's something that they'll start doing with the new difficulty mode as well with No Hope. The fact that they're touching temporary health makes me wonder all the different ways that they're affecting it. Because if they're going to start implementing cards like this, they might start implementing changes in other places. So, interesting card. We'll see what else is going on with it. I think the 5% health is really interesting though, especially if you're going big chunky HP. But we'll see about that decay thing. If you consider something like Toxic Spill, that's going to be really, really valuable on that map because not only did they nerf Toxic Spill not that long ago, but getting HP every time you kill something, temporary health HP, this will make it so that you're getting more out of that. Oh, and now that I think about it, temporary health decay is 20% slower. Let's talk about the next thing that was on this list, which is Fit as a Fiddle. Now, what this is going to do is give your team 25% more bolstered health, and it's going to just give you regular team health. Now, if you don't know what bolstered health is, I don't remember if I've talked about it in a video yet. Bolstered health is going to basically be more capacity for temporary health. This is a really big deal. So let's go ahead and make a pretend scenario here so we can kind of understand this a little bit better. I'll make a health bar. So the way health works in this game is in 25 HP chunks. And typically you have about 100 HP, right? So what bolstered health is going to do is make it so you can have basically another bar, okay? But that bar is only ever going to be temporary HP. It's not ever going to be regular health. Bolstered health is just more capacity to have temp HP. Why does this matter? Why would you care? Reason why bolstered health really, really matters is because it is basically a giant trauma shield. If you don't know how temporary health works in this game right now, damage that you take out of your temporary health pool does not count towards trauma. So if you have bolstered health, this means you can go beyond your max of 100 HP and then still have temporary health, meaning that you can start getting some of the benefits of temporary health without having to take trauma damage. Because typically you're not going to get enough temporary HP to really matter until you've already taken 10 or 20 trauma. Now with bolstered health, you're not going to have to take trauma damage in order to benefit from temporary health's trauma protecting abilities. Okay? That is the biggest thing behind bolstered health that I hope people start considering. It's a really big deal. And what this means is 25% more team bolstered health. I don't know what the base amount of bolstered health is going to be, but if it's 0 and then it gives you 25 more, then you could have 125 based off of this card. Charisse also gives what? Is it 25% team bolstered health? So Charisse plus fit as a fiddle is going to be what? 150 health capacity. Now, again, that extra 50 bolstered health can only be temporary HP, but that's huge. And like I was just saying, let's say you're on Toxic Spill. You don't even really get to benefit from Toxic Spill until you've taken damage. But if you have bolstered health, now you can start getting temporary HP without having to feel a consequence first. Bolstered health is pretty cool. Now on to the next card here, Magician's Apprentice. This is basically Hang's ability, except a little bit better, but it's only for one person. So Magician's Apprentice, you have an additional 10% chance to not consume an accessory when used. This is a big deal. 10%, that's a lot. And then if you factor that in with Hang, suddenly you're at 15%. And when you consider that Hoffman can spawn items, I mean, I guess Hang's gonna spawn items, cards like Mugger or Highwayman can spawn items, and there's a lot of items in the game that just don't have any reuse chance. If you have a medkit that can have 15% reuse chance now, or I don't think defibs can have a reuse chance, but now suddenly your defibs can. Or heck, let's say you have an item that already does have a reuse chance and now it just has more reuse chance. Magician's Apprentice is just a great economy card because 10% is nothing to scoff at, and it makes Hang feel like he makes a little bit more sense. On to Bravado here. What this is going to do, let me rotate my head. When a teammate within 15 meters receives trauma damage, gain 10% of that amount as trauma health. I don't think trauma health is this brand new mechanic. Don't get too confused about it. Don't think too hard about it. Trauma damage, trauma health. So in my mind, basically what it's going to do is just heal a little bit of trauma damage that you've taken. That's really all it is. So if somebody takes 10 trauma damage, you're going to heal for 1 trauma HP. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Maybe this will be cool. Maybe it won't. What I'm really excited about with this patch is there's a bunch of different things that are changing all at the same time. And we're going to really get to feel what those changes are like once everything is in. Because if you look at these things in a box, you can't really understand the whole picture. That's what I'm most excited about this patch, is once these are in, everything's going to get affected all at the same time. And new synergies that we couldn't even imagine are going to start cropping up. But now onto Weaponsmith, because this is by far, like, this is the same level of absolutely game-changing mechanic information as anything that's ever been in the game. Let me read it. Allows the ability to unbolt attachments from weapons outside of safe rooms. Unbolting attachments cost 400 copper. Additional copies of Weaponsmith played will reduce its cost by 100 copper. If you don't know how this works, I cannot wait to explain it to you. But weaponsmithing is going to completely change the game. Weaponsmith as a card, I think, is a must pick from a team perspective. If you take a look from a 1 out of 60 cards, that's not a big price to pay for the ability to unbolt your weapon anywhere. It's 1/60th of your card load. Pretty easy to go ahead and pick that. But now let's talk about how weaponsmithing as a mechanic is going to work. Because weaponsmithing is an absolutely fundamental way you are going to play this game. It is a meta way to play this game. You want to get involved with weaponsmithing. Let me show you how it works. So, how weaponsmithing is going to work. By the way, the reason why I know this is because they went ahead and confirmed it. So, weaponsmithing, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to swap and drop all of the attachments on your weapon and all future attachments you put on it. Weaponsmithing makes it so it's cheaper for your entire team, and it allows you to unbolt weapons in the wild. And keep in mind, they have added new legendary attachments to the game. So the value of being able to do whatever you want with your attachments is at an all-time high. Okay? So let me show you how this works in case you're more of a visual person. Let's say I have these attachments all right here. I have a Barrett. On this Barrett, I have a gold comp, a blue stumble, a green sight, and a purple stock. with unbolting, what you can do is you can just take the attachment and throw it on the ground. No questions asked. There they go. Ta-da! You don't need to have another thing to swap it with anymore. You don't need to make sure you have a mag on the ground to swap your stumbles around. You can just rip the dang thing off. And then, since they're on the ground, what you can do is you can just go put them on your next weapon. Like, let's say you just found an upgraded tier of your weapon. I had a gray Barrett. Well, now I have a green Barrett. And since this weapon was unbolted, I could just go ahead and rip everything off and put it on my new thing. But keep in mind that this weapon's going to be bolted. So you're going to go back to the old way of playing where you can't just rip it off without another attachment. Okay? So you will have to go ahead and unbolt this next weapon down here in order to make that work, this green Barrett. So now let's go ahead and start talking use case scenarios as to how this is going to feel out in the wild. So a very common scenario is to start the game with no attachments. How else would you have them? Unless you use a dusty card or you buy some attachments, you got nothing on there. But you still might want to unbolt in the safe room anyway, just to have your gun unbolted. That way, if you do find something, you can be like, yeah, sure, I want you on there. I'll just toss it on for now. You know what? I'll toss one of these on here for now. And then if I want to, I could swap things out later. So it'll be nice to have that flexibility. If you want to put it on your main weapon, you could get your main weapon stacked up and then go ahead when you find another variant of your main weapon, just pop everything over. Another thing you could do is you could have a extra weapon. Like, let's say this is going to be your backup weapon. Let's say you're running 2 as 1 or something like that. Your backup weapon could be unbolted. And then you could use this as something where you just swip and swap attachments whenever you want off of this one weapon that's constantly unbolted. That could be also a very nice way to play. You just try to make sure that this thing has a little bit of everything on it. So no matter what, you can always swap out any attachment at any point as long as you find one. Okay? Pretty cool scenario. But now things aren't always going to be that ideal, especially at the beginning of an act. So at the beginning of an act, you don't have any attachments like we said before, unless you did something like with a dusty card or you yoinked some attachments really quick when you found them. So that's where weaponsmithing as a card might become a little bit more useful because again, if you take a look what the card does, it allows you to do it outside of the safe room. I don't know what that means exactly, if that means once the safe room door is open, no more unbolting, or if that means literally just walking in there. If all you have to do is walk in there, that's really interesting and it takes a lot of value out of weaponsmithing. We'll see how that ends up playing out. But let's say you're at the beginning of the match here and you found a weapon that is just stacked, right? Like let's say I'm running a Barrett and I want a Barrett. But what I ended up finding was this M4 that just has everything on it. Holy man, this thing's a beast. I love this thing. But I don't want an M4 because an M4 sucks, right? So what you could do in that scenario, if you have weaponsmithing and you've already walked out of the safe room, is you could take this M4, unbolt it and be like, mine, 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 and then throw it on to the weapon of choice that you like. If you found a Barrett but it doesn't have anything on it, well, you can go ahead and unbolt something that has a lot of things on it, and then you're set. You have total control over your attachments. And attachments are such a big freaking deal in this game. If you undervalue attachments, I encourage you to learn a little bit more about them. And then something we really, 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 really need to keep in mind is these brand new, who knows what they're going to look like. Say my caps on, legendary, as they would say in How I Met Your Mother. New legendary attachments that are going to be in the game. Who knows what these things are going to be capable of? Currently, legendary attachments are take 2 blue attachments and smush them together. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the new legendary attachments in the DLC are going to be unique. They are going to make your guns do very special things. So what you're going to have the ability to do is, let's say you find a weapon in these tunnels that has a really awesome attachment. You can go ahead and rip those attachments off, these legendary attachments, and then basically build your own dang legendary weapon via attachments, which is going to be incredible. And one more scenario to keep in mind. Let's say you're playing as Jim and you start with this M1A and you hate it because most Jim players do not like the M1A that he starts with. If you go ahead and you take the mentality of, well, I'm just going to go ahead and unbolt it right away and then, flip and plop attachments out as I want. Well, you might not get that luxury if you don't get a full stack of attachments here. But also, what if you go ahead and find a Barrett then? And you want to keep the Barrett with you. You got to drop that dang gun anyway, and now you just picked up a gun that is still bolted, right? So being able to weaponsmith things out in the field gives you just such a great degree of flexibility. And when you look at weaponsmith from the perspective, again, 1 out of 60 cards on your team, it kind of seems like a no-brainer. I can guarantee you out of 60 cards, out of 4 people, there's going to be 1 card in there that's less valuable than what Weaponsmith is going to provide to the team. You have total control of everything. Because again, who cares if this M1A is unbolted if you unbolt it right before you leave 1-1? This doesn't matter because you don't want the dang thing anyway. What's going to matter is if you get to unbolt something else a little bit later that's a little bit more advantageous to you when you've actually had the time to rack up attachments. This comes in at a perfect time, this weaponsmithing mechanic does. Because imagine if you found legendary attachments and then you wouldn't be able to go ahead and take them. That'd be really sad, right? Because of whatever reason you didn't have attachments around you. Oh, that does remind me. One thing to keep in mind is we don't even know what these tunnels look like. So if you go into the tunnels, maybe you'll have trouble walking backwards to go find attachments that you want or something like that. So being able to weaponsmith things on the fly wherever you are is also going to be really nice. What if you can't, what if you're deep into the tunnels and you can't walk all the way back up to the safe room? That's a possibility. They might make you have to deal with that. So another reason to go ahead and have, again, 1 person on your team with weaponsmithing. One other scenario where weaponsmithing could be really nice. Let's say you don't have a stack of 4 people. I didn't even think about the scenario too much before. But if you are the person on your team who has weaponsmithing, what can be really nice is if you have someone who joins into your game via a quick play, you know what they start with? They start with a weapon that has nothing on it. So what you can do is you can be the unbolter. They're going to start in after the safe room. Safe room opportunity is already gone. But since you can weaponsmith, you can get them stacked up with a really, really nice set of attachments on their gun or on whatever they find. All right, that's another, I think that's another thing that people aren't necessarily considering is this is going to be a beautiful card for quick play. And I'm assuming that they're going to fix some of the quick play bugs that showed up in the February patch, which is your gun's getting reset in between levels and stuff like that. If things work as they're intended, Weaponsmith is a great card to be a team player in a quick play perspective, which I guess some folks might argue that is kind of counterintuitive. Anywho, let me know what you guys think. I'm really excited about these cards that they announced. I'm really excited to see what they're going to be talking about. It does come out on April 12th, this new Tunnels of Terror patch, but I'm assuming we're going to get another card drop before then. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about what's all going on. I stream just about every single night, twitch.tv/SwingPoynt. If you want to go talk to me about the game and see what's going on or let me know what you guys think. Also, if these videos have been helpful to you at all, and I'm going to be publishing a lot more guides for stuff that's going to be coming out with the Tunnels of Terror, please consider subscribing down below. And if you want to support the stream just a little bit more, you can go ahead and click the join button down below to become a YouTube member. It's a way to go ahead and contribute about $1 a month to make it so that I can keep doing what I do here for a living. So thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video that we do around here.